But that doesn't mean he's wrong about everything. The glee about his suspension by some free speech superfans was hypocritical. And the pressure from the FCC was outrageous and unacceptable. Government controls on ideas and speech are not just anti-American, they're anti-democratic and they're dangerous. It seemed to me a lot of stuff went on with this Kimmel thing, which is concerning. I think most people agree the FCC guy behaving like Don Corleone, not a good idea. Probably not a good idea for Donald Trump to be publicly saying the complete opposite to what his administration says, which is they're not interfering in Jimmy Kimmel and his free speech when he clearly thinks they should be.
All right, this is pretty funny. During the most recent episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored, Morgan was forced to concede and publicly eat crow that Donald Trump did objectively try to censor Jimmy Kimmel and ABC via Trump's own FCC. Now, this comes after Piers Morgan tried to pounce on an excuse to vindicate Donald Trump after Kimmel was restored. So once Kimmel was returned to his show by ABC, Piers Morgan said this on Twitter. He says, so Kimmel wasn't canceled by Trump or the FCC after all, but temporarily suspended by his employer because they thought what he said was ill-timed and insensitive. So that was Piers, in the midst of an internal battle, this public free speech warrior with a man who is devoutly loyal to Donald Trump and grades him on a curve. So there he thought he could split the difference. Aha, Trump had nothing to do with this. This was actually a private business decision. And then, of course, Donald Trump proceeded to make a total ass out of Piers Morgan with his own words, as people like the This You account pointed out, oh, Piers, and then quoted Trump after ABC was restored. This is what Trump said. I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC his show was canceled. Something happened between now and then because his audience is gone and that his talent was never there. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He's yet another arm of the DNC, and to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me more than $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. So this put Piers in an awkward position because that was Donald Trump coming out and saying, yeah, actually, I did try to censor Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm going to try again. So with that in mind, let's play more clips from the most recent episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored where this is discussed.
But I want to be very clear that it doesn't matter if it's red or blue. You should be allowed to speak truth without fear of censorship. So I agree with you being intellectually honest that we need to be very careful about curbing free speech, and we need to be incredibly concerned with what was just emerged that was allegedly done. The thing that I would say that I think is important to point out is that we can have the conversation about Kimmel, but Donald Trump has tried to silence journalists and institutions that have said truth that he just doesn't like. A $15 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for something he claimed was false that later came out as utterly true.
That was the creepy Epstein letter and drawing that Trump allegedly gave to Jeffrey Epstein that Trump denied, called it fake news. It's fake news. And he sued Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal. And then, of course, the letter was actually released and the Wall Street Journal's reporting was corroborated.
So I think we need to make the distinction between what is being discussed and what is actual silence of actual truth.
Okay.
Then that's Daniel Coe from the Biden administration making the case about Donald Trump's long habit of censorship. And so in this next clip, I believe this is the one where Piers is forced to reckon with Donald Trump's most recent remarks, which again, unfortunately made Piers look like an ass because Piers tried to rush to Trump's defense. So Trump had nothing to do with this. He wasn't censorious. That's just the left. And then Trump proved him wrong.
When Donald Trump posts on Truth Social like he has today, I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC that his show was cancelled.
Yeah,
Something happened. Hang on, let me finish.
Sure.
Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone. His talent was never there. He's yet another arm of the DNC, and to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. I mean, there he's talking about conversations he says happened between the White House and ABC where assurances were given by ABC to the White House that Kimmel was out, and he's surprised that has now been reversed, and then saying he may sue over it. This doesn't look like a president who wants to keep out of this. Looks like somebody who wants to influence it.
That's putting it mildly. That's being overly generous to the two Republicans on the panel. If this were Obama or Biden, Piers would be saying, that's an outrage. This is a censorious president. This is someone who wants to censor free speech. So again, even in his condemnation, he feels inclined to to be a bit gentle and pull his punches with Trump, but it's true. Donald Trump basically admitted that the White House and ABC were having secret conversations behind the scenes in which the ABC felt pressured to tell the White House, oh, Jimmy Kimmel's gone. He's been canceled. You don't have to worry about it, dear leader. And the fact that they decided to reinstate him is something that Trump sees as a deep personal betrayal and something that now he's threatening additional government litigation, government retaliation against Kimmel. That's absolute abject, objective, textbook black and white censorship that we've just never saw from the Biden administration in that way, or the Obama administration, or any Democratic administration, certainly in recent American history. So I appreciate Piers basically conceding the letter proved him wrong. Here's another clip.
Right. So you won't get any argument from me about any of that. It's just even more incumbent, I would argue, for when the Republicans get power, that they then don't start to behave in a similar manner. Would you agree?
Yeah, but there's not a...
So again, I appreciate that. I appreciate Piers saying, hey, listen, you don't get it. Piers is telling his Republican guests, listen, I acknowledge that the left engages in censorship. That's my entire raison d'etre. But I think that, then the right has an obligation to not act in the very sort of way that they're complaining. Now, I would argue that the right has never held a deeply principled view on free speech as a matter of behavior. It's more about power and wielding that power against their political opponents, as we are starting to see here. And that's always been Trump's, MO. Trump has never been a principled defender of free speech, or quite frankly, a principled defender of anything. And that's becoming increasingly obvious in putting people like Piers and, quite frankly, more MAGA Republican spokespeople for Trump or defenders of Trump, because even Piers has his limits, in a really awkward position. Here's another clip.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel has actually talked about repeatedly when he did blackface a million years ago. And I think, to me, that's beside the point. The right actually had a pretty good argument to make that some aspects of cancel culture had gone too far. And what most of them have proven, and you see that in Matt's response right now, they didn't really believe in that. They love the idea of cancel culture. They want to be able to use it themselves. And that's why the entire MAGA movement was so gleeful when Jimmy Kimmel got suspended here. And let's be clear. Matt said that this doesn't have anything to do with the government. It has everything to do with the government. The only reason ABC suspended Kimmel in the first place was because Donald Trump's FCC threatened to remove ABC's broadcasting license. And the point on the affiliates, Matt, I didn't interrupt you. I'd ask if you didn't interrupt me, please. Thank you.
It's not right.
The whole thing with the Sinclair and the rest of the affiliates, like, they're working through a merger right now. So Donald Trump uses the power of the federal government to get what he wants, and that's what he's doing here. And I'm glad to see folks on the left, the right, the middle coming out, Joe Rogan, a whole bunch of other comedians. That's a good thing. What we're finding, though, is that the MAGA movement really doesn't believe in the Constitution, doesn't believe in the First Amendment. Also, I point out, doesn't really believe in the Second Amendment, because we're 2.5 weeks removed from them saying they were going to ban all transgender individuals in the country from having guns, and the NRA had to come out and rebuke them. So they don't really believe in these rights. They want to be able to use the power of the government to tell you, me, everybody else what to do in their image. That's all.
Absolutely. That is 100% correct. And that's Mike Nellis, friend of the show. Somebody whom I deeply respect. He's really, really good on Piers Morgan stuff. He's really good on Fox News and Tommy Lauren's show and others as well. Excellent debater, excellent interviewer, making the case for the Democratic Party. And I think that was a really compelling case indeed. I want to play one last clip from this exchange, and we'll probably discuss the back half of this episode, which is also very fascinating, in a separate video. But here is one last clip from this on the topic of Jimmy Kimmel.
And okay, but using that yardstick, presumably you would condemn the Biden administration bullying Google into censoring YouTube accounts for talking about COVID.
So I think there's a huge difference between what we're talking about. When you talk about free speech, you don't have the right to shout fire in a crowded theater because people could get hurt. So I think it's worth having a conversation of, if people are intentionally spreading disinformation using social media platforms, can the government step in, have a conversation with the company? I'm happy to have that. I also have a hard time believing you can really bully Google, which is a massive corporation. Senior White House officials reaching out and saying, hey, this is dangerous at a time of crisis during the pandemic is not the same as Donald Trump threatening to remove the license for ABC.
Okay.
Brilliant point. So obviously allegations are around like, hey, well, what about what the Biden administration and Trump administration, I will point out, did in terms of engaging with social media companies during the pandemic in 2020 and 2021? Donald Trump was president in 2020. President Biden was in office in 2021. What about the federal government under each of these men engaging with social media companies? Now, listen, if there's anything nearly as explicit as what Brendan Carr did on live TV with respect, or on Benny Johnson's podcast with respect to Jimmy Kimmel, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. if somebody in a position of power and influence like Brendan Carr is as the FCC chairman, he's not just some random Republican. He's a guy who actually has influence over Jimmy Kimmel and ABC affiliates because he's the chairman of the FCC, as well as influence over Nexstar and Sinclair because they need his permission for any sort of merger. If anybody like that said, hey, listen, you better do X, Y, and Z, otherwise this will happen or this will happen, then that's a problem. That is a problem under the Biden administration or the Trump administration. But those allegations have not been made, number one. Number two, there has been no evidence of that sort of behavior. Number three, we're talking about the Trump administration and the Biden administration trying to suppress medical disinformation, what they thought would lead to the deaths of people. Remember, COVID killed 1 million Americans, more than 1 million Americans. It's a very serious thing. It's not doing what Trump did when he was in office, which was ask Twitter to take down a tweet by Chrissy Teigen, celebrity. She's the wife of John Legend, and she referred to Trump as a pussy-ass bitch. Remember when the Trump administration tried to get that tweet torn down? That's the sort of petty act of censorship. Talking and engaging with social media companies to try to suppress medical disinformation, that's not inherently censorious. So those claims would need to be substantiated. So I appreciate the fact that, Mike Nellis didn't give the farm away on that and say, no, these are exactly the same. No, they're not. And much more needs to be substantiated about the claims about the Biden administration and the Trump administration. But what we have here with Kimmel is Brendan Carr openly, publicly, explicitly threatening from a position of direct power and influence over the situation in the first place. And that's just objectively worse. So there you have it. Piers Morgan being forced to reluctantly concede that Donald Trump was engaging in overt censorship despite his best attempts to cover for his old buddy. And I appreciate the fact that he was forced to concede that. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.